we have got Deathwing's Rise and Fall being covered in the latest Legacies.
Yes, and interestingly on this segment, someone actually contacted me saying there might be a substantial plot hole in this. Not necessarily a plot hole, but a substantial thing that shouldn't be there that we'll talk about a little bit.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, go through it and I'll bring it up at the end.
Okay, right. So we've got Emberthal, okay?
Yep.
She's a Drakthir, and Nosdormu is basically just explaining history in the past to her. It's a good plot device to characterize the Drakthir and also get a whole bunch of players up to speed on dragon lore, which has sometimes been outside of the game, in books or in the Cataclysm expansion, which was, 12 years ago.
Yeah, because I think, I think even a lot of the dragon stuff during the War of the Ancients here stuff people might not necessarily know.
Yeah.
The whole idea of Deathwing showed up and like, haha, I'm bad now. I am Deathwing, not Neltharion, haha, etc., etc.
So basically, he covers that, right? Fills them in about, just a bit about all of this stuff, their history, what they're doing together, of course, the treachery.
Michael, why are they called the Dragon Isles? That's like us calling something the human island, the human planet. That's kind of weird.
That is a bit weird.
Yeah.
So we've got, War of the Ancients, Neltharion turning on everybody. Then, of course, the Dragon Soul, which Neltharion convinces everybody to make because it would be a great super weapon to help them defeat the Legion. And then he's just is like, oh, thanks for making that. Now I'm going to instantly betray you all.
Yeah. Thanks.
Fantastic.
Yeah. By the way, this thing that I made is not called the Dragon Soul. It's called the Demon Soul. Haha, I fool you with a name. Nice one.
Yeah.
Very good.
And then, of course, it zooms us forward to the Fall of Deathwing, which is where we basically did a little time heist to grab that very same Dragon Soul. Which
is cool.
And then Thrall was able to use that to zap Deathwing after we fought him.
Yep.
But now there's...
Actually, we blasted him twice. Because Thrall shot him out of the sky with it.
True.
And then we killed a load of tentacles and then shot him with it again.
So now we're at an interesting place where there's the thing that I know I was going to talk about, which is if Nosdormu can see like time and like the true timeline and shit, how are there things that he has not been able to see? And then I guess you said there's a plot hole apparently?
Yeah, so the plot hole is a very minor one, but it's if you scroll up, maybe they're still there, them all standing in the place.
Oh, when they're all
they're all in the
here.
forum. Yeah. So as far as I'm aware, in terms of timelines, humans didn't exist yet. Was Deathwing looking like a human? Also, they're all taking elf forms. High elves didn't exist yet. They're all just night elves with their blue and the purple skin. So the visage forms are actually not really, they shouldn't exist.
They're ahead of their time. They're visionaries.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, Nosdormu, he knows which vision to take for time because he knows time. You could say that, but it's like, yeah, Vrykul could be Vrykul, but they definitely look a lot more like he doesn't look like a full Vrykul. He looks more humanesque. And you go, interesting that you take the form of races that don't exist yet. Isn't that interesting? Because the visage forms, we didn't see them actually in game until like Wrath, and we saw them earlier. And they actually. So that's the one thing. Is like, you can't just give them a different visage form and then have like a little text mark at the screen. These look different than usual because we noticed that didn't actually make sense.
Artist's impression.
Yeah, but they wanted to show their visage form because that was important to them. But it just doesn't actually completely make sense in terms of how the time goes.
Well, that's kind of funny. That is kind of funny. Now,
Hold on a second. Q says Deathwing is a Vrykul, and in the Stormage book it is said as a form between human and night elf. Yeah.
He is pretty big.
He is pretty big.
Yeah.
It is still, they all look like night elves with different skin colors. Like, that's not exactly blending in. But yeah, it's again, I think this is clearly not like a serious problem.
Yes.
It is clearly just someone noticed that and they told me, and I was like, you know what? That's a good point. I said I would go do a little research into like the human and Vrykul stuff, but turns out we basically know very little about timelines there.
Yeah, we don't.
At some point, Titan stuff, Vrykul, Curse of Flesh, human born, got on a boat. Then the Eastern Kingdoms happened. They're like, sweet. I can't wait to actually learn more about that because I assume we will.
So here's where it gets interesting, right? Emberthal realizes that Nosdormu wants something from her. He says, "It is my gift and my burden to travel the pathways of time, but there is one crucial moment that has long remained hidden from me, and only you can lead me there." So the question is, what the hell does this mean? Because we know he's seen his own death. Now, has he seen beyond his own death? Which we kind of talked about
Well,
last week.
Well, his death is Murazond, right?
Perhaps.
Yeah, it's not his death as Nosdormu, it's his death as Murazond.
Perhaps.
So
we don't like. How much do we know?
Yeah. So one theory I saw was that it was that the point in time he doesn't know was when he turns to Murazond, and then that could be like him trying to figure out what happens that I go mad. How do I stop that? Because he obviously wants to stop that, or how do I understand this so he can do something about it. But beyond that, it's kind of weird because I guess the way the start of the Infinite Dragonflight board, exactly one of the things you could be thinking about. But another part is, the only thing that I think weird about this is it sets up a lot of Drakthir stuff. And like, I have no idea why the Drakthir are important. And I feel like they need to be very careful with making the Drakthir important. Because if they make the Drakthir super important to like Nosdormu's kind of whole plan of I need you to show me. If that's I need you to show me because technically I need you here, Drakthir, you're in my vision, part of the army that help us defeat and sort all this problem out. So I know kind of almost like circular, I need to get you to come help so we can win and then progress the story. But if it is just we need you specifically because you're the special magic chosen dragon ones, then I think everyone will go, what the hell is this twink dragon race doing being the main character?
Okay.
And that's the thing I think they need to be a little bit careful about, especially because if they're thinking, oh, everyone's going to play a Drakthir Evoker because they're so cool. And then people will go, but I'm not changing my main. I'm going to stay my main. And then they end up not feeling like the game story represents their character's input. That's the thing. That is me just going, what's the worst case of this? Otherwise, it's a very nice little, because we get to see the yeah, I know. I'm always the fucking doomer here going, here's the worst case here, etc., etc., etc. But there is like, the later parts of the legacies could show us the Drakthir's purpose in a way that makes more sense.
Yeah.
It is just me going, oh no, I hope they do this right.
Yes, I hope they do. My assumption is that it's actually kind of similar to the super chat from with Sebastian, who supered to 6-0 and said, the void has unending possibilities. Maybe it obscures some of them from Nosdormu because he has already started to fall to become a Morazond. So on the latter half, we'll have to see. For the start, though, how did Nosdormu not, given that he can see time, how did he not see Deathwing's betrayal? So either he did see it and he let it happen, which doesn't really make sense, or he didn't see it and it is the case that he is charged with, this whole true timeline thing is really just like what the Titans want to happen. I guess that. Old God, and it's Old God, like corruption, influence, jiggery pokery. That's basically is the sort of thing that kind of eludes his vision. Yeah. So the dialogue in that actual Legacies Chapter 2 was he alluded to the way I read it anyway was when he was talking about it was Emberthal was like, how do you know you weren't mistaken, or what's it they said specifically, basically that you didn't provoke him, and he was like, we something about we didn't want to believe it when it happened. So I think he was very much somewhere in the middle of he saw the timeline but didn't completely believe it until it happened and went, oh shit, it was too late now. Or he saw it and went, I have to let this happen because I can't stop it because this is the timeline we have to protect. So I think it's one of those two things. But it is like, he definitely knew it was going to happen. But it was a question of accepting it or not believing it. He says they didn't believe it. Yeah. So that's the whole thing where you kind of go, okay, well, how do you actually, how do you deal with everything about that time stuff? And hopefully they go into this where he talks about like the burden of like walking the timeways. And it is that you see what's happening, and because they focus on it with his own death. Yeah. But there's so many other things that's like, oh, this is everyone's going to suffer a hell of a lot to keep this timeline pure, to keep this, to let this actually happen. You're going to have to suck it up. You're the one who knows what's going to happen. You can't change it. Isn't that like a whole part of like time travel fiction? As a lot of, you have to let the bad things happen because good things stuff. Yeah. And even the Cavern to Time dungeons are all around that. Where it's like, oh, hey, you have to open the dark portal. You're like, that seems like a pretty bad idea. Then someone goes, yeah, but if you don't open the dark portal, then the old gods win. You're like, good point. Or you have to stop Arthur going Lich King. Or why? Or the Legion wins. Like, you're right. Yeah. Sometimes bad things have good results. Great.
I think that's really cool.
Overall thing is we are likely going to get something a bit more major in a future one of these. Right, almost for sure. Even take like the Ashara one. Like the Ashara one had Ashara and N'Zoth, who were, both end bosses. Right? So I imagine we're going to have a pretty damn fair idea of what's going on by the end of this series. Which should be fun, because they've mostly just been recapping lore thus far. I have to imagine that these characters will walk away and actually do something.
Yeah, there's like, I think 2 real points here, right? One is they have to catch people back up on the dragon lore.
Yeah,
because like they said, they don't want it to go read a book and you'll understand. So they've kind of recapped the core points of Dawn of the Aspects and of the War of the Ancients, which is kind of all you need to know for dragons so far. I don't think they'll bother with any of the like kind of mid-core dragon stuff. They're not going to say, right, everyone sit down, here's the story of Onyxia. Or right, sit down, here's the story of the Dragon Maw clan. They're not going to do that. They're just going to go, here's the keys, the keynotes. Now we've got that established and we've got the Dracula hooked in. Now we can do something new with the last couple of chapters, or even if not new to the Dragon Isles. And also they did say they are going to do the Dracula's actual purpose, kind of bring that in. So they need to do that. But they can't do that from episode 1 because people go, who the fuck are these?
Now that is the thing.
So they do it in episode 3 and everyone goes, okay, well, we've seen a little bit of them, we're used to them. Okay, it's fine. It's time for Emberthal to actually say something of import, or for other Dracula to go and do stuff. Yeah,
well, that's the thing. We don't know why they were made yet. Right? Like, we know that there's some sort of secret army that Deathwing makes, but they're not called Deathwing at the time. But we don't know why. Right? Like, he clearly was aware of some problem. Now, it could have been that he was aware of all this void shit and made them to, like, help him hunt down old gods and purge them from the earth, but then he gets flipped at some point while they're in stasis. It could be something like that.
Could be.
But straight up, we don't know, but they do have some sort of purpose. I doubt it's just to defeat the primal incarnates.
No.
Like, I really doubt that. So there is some sort of deeper mystery, some sort of thing that has happened. But you got to remember, this is shit that is like, I mean, it's not just 10,000 years ago with the War of the Ancient stuff. This is, in many cases, so far, like, so far back in time that it makes the War of the Ancients probably even look a little bit, honestly, a little bit, like, recent. There's some of those Titan lore books that we see, like, that are just after the time of Galakrond, and that's straight up, like, so long ago, do we even know what year Galakrond is?
I don't think we have any idea. The only thing we know is
double check.
The only thing we know is it was post Sundering, right? I think it wasn't post Sundering. It was way before that.
It was way before, yeah.
Yeah, because the War of the Ancients, the Dragonflights were there. So it was a long ass time ago. It was in the primordial Azeroth kind of. Obviously it was when the Titans were ordering it, or no, it was post Titans ordering because it was Tyr, who was the keeper. So it was before Sundering. Yeah.
Okay, per Warcraft Legends Volume 3. I'm not sure on the canonicity. Oh, that's the Legends manga.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It was republished in 2017.
It was 2017. I would imagine anything that's in the manga is definitely...
They put it as more than 20,000 years ago.
Yeah, so yeah.
Basically, a long-ass time.
Yeah, well, I think it was... Yeah, it was very much when the Night Elves weren't really being proper elves yet. And there was kind of primordial-esque, I imagine. Because that's where you want to settle all that stuff. You want to settle that stuff way before, and then you give the dragons lots of time to roam and lots of time to do things. And because one of the things was in that cinematic, they said something about going to defend their home Azeroth from the demons, and then something how they always had, not from the demons, but like defend it, which means there's a lot of, hey, we defended this planet loads, but we don't know a single instance of that happening outside of the War of the Ancients, because we know absolutely nothing about that, about like pre that, in a way that isn't at least kind of by the Titans, or the Titans did all the work there. So there's a little bit of, there's a lot of history that they're going to fill in with the dragons, so they're going to try to probably keep that away from, maybe like the dragons had to kill a load of trolls sometime because they're being boisterous or weird or something, maybe, because obviously the trolls predated the elves. But on that front, it's all like they say, they want to fill in that part of Azeroth's history, because it's literally a big blank slate. And I think that's kind of cool if they do it correctly, of course. Of course, that's always a part of it.
Yeah, there was one comment there about Galakron being the mutation. That's not. I mean, it may be from partially eating dragons, but the current canon is that is the Everspring. Basically, it's some sort of magic something in the Dragon Isles that Yogg-Saron corrupts.
Yeah, the Dawn of the Aspects, it was very much I think it was more or less, Knack was just going, it's the Kurzfeld Jacobs disease, or Jacobs Kurzfeld, there it goes, which is mad cow disease of, eat the same race, protons fold your brain, you're gone. I think it was very much supposed to be that, with a hint of, maybe it's necromancy, maybe there's something else going on, because we're in the frozen undead north. But then it obviously became, hey, it's Yogg. Hey, god of death, necromancy, sweet.
Yep.
Hey, we've managed to make that make sense eventually, even though we dropped that plot thread in Wrath and then didn't use it in the Shadowlands for some reason.
Finally made it fit. Now, holy shit, we've we got a €50 super from
Goblin Honors?
Goblin Honors. Wow. Taliesin theorized that it's not Nosdormu, but Morozond.
Oh, no, please. Please, no.
And that he could be looking for something Neltharion got from N'Zoth, which allowed him to avoid the time vision of Nosdormu, and Morozond wants to hide his plans from his younger self.
So I think the idea of N'Zoth and the Old Gods having something that messes with the true timeline stuff would make sense with the idea of the Void seeing possibility and the Light seeing the one true. And then, because I think the way it probably works is Void sees everything and just kind of goes, which one's good? The Light sees the one that they absolutely want and they consider it like the hardcore true. This is the only one. I think then Order kind of goes, well, we'll make our own way. We'll sort of slam together some timelines and try to create our own, because that's what Order, you imagine that. So that would kind of make sense for that. But I think if they're doing something as honestly dumb as, hey, this isn't the character do you think it is in a cinematic like this, I think that's really daft. I hope it's not that. Even though I think it would be relatively a pretty okay plot thing to kind of thread through, the idea of this being Morozond, unless it's revealed at the end of Dragonflight Legacies, and that's been like a mini story, that'd be cool. But if this is like, oh no, this has been Morozond the whole time and we're not going to tell you, that would be really annoying.
Wait, what do you mean by Morozond the whole time?
Nosdormu. Obviously, it's Nosdormu presenting as modern Nosdormu.
Yeah, you mean only in this.
Yeah, but here, the point is that our Dragon Elves, because this is at the start of Dragonflight, when he shows up and talks to Drakthir. If he's already Morozond and doing weird trickery shit, I think that would be kind of weird overall. I don't know.
Yeah, so you didn't mean at the end, you meant at the end of the expansion, not at the end of this series of videos.
Yeah. If it's the end of the series of videos, I think that would be like vaguely okay.
But the end of this series of videos is going to be the start of the expansion.
Oh yeah, right enough, yeah. So they can't do that?
Yeah.
Because then it'd just be Morozond from start of the expansion?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I think if this has actually been Morozond the whole time, I'll kind of go, I could see how it would work.
Yeah, that's the thing. I could see how it would work. I could see how it's the sort of thing that you can more only do with a character with access to time in the way that Morozond does. And it's kind of weird then, because I really, really love time hijinks. So I have a feeling I would like that. But I suppose my worry would be that if this series is serving like a dual purpose to also educate players on who the fuck these dragons are and why they should care, because you really have to understand how large of a percentage of the World of Warcraft audience doesn't have a fucking clue what's going on. It's not their fault, but you really would be surprised how many people just, click, 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 go, don't really pay attention to things, don't really know what any of this stuff is. Right? Like, that's a hell of a lot of people. So I suppose if they did go and kind of play a fast one, then that would be that could be a bit weird if this is educating people. But that said,
yeah, that's what I think is weird.
Morozond's going to have to appear at some stage, and at some stage in this talk with Emberthal, probably he will talk about his fate.
You would
right. So
you would expect
I think
that.
we'll probably get some Morozond in this.
Yeah, we get some Murazon, but it wouldn't be I've been Murazon the whole time and everything I've told you is now viewed through a lens that I'm using it to my benefit. Well, if you understand, that would change if this is intended to be, here's a straight up front, hey, here's the catch up on the lore, then viewers would be going, wait, was any of that to be trusted because it was through the lens of this untrustworthy villain?
That could turn out to be Morazond.
Yeah.
But if Nosdormu then arrives at the end of the series and banishes this imposter, right? Sort of banishes his future self back into some time portal, then that gets us a betrayal, right? It gets us him pulling a fast one, using his time bullshit, right? So like acting pretty well as a villain and, duping the viewer and the character, but then actual Nosdormu comes in. I think that gets you a lot of the intrigue that's been laid out there, and then also a situation where Nosdormu is still Nosdormu.
I'm going to say I think that could be interesting if Dragonflight opened with time stuff, but I feel it would be pretty disjointed as an experience to go, hey, here's the lead up to Dragonflight. It's all this, all dragon stuff, and bam, here's the big mystery and the big, there's timey-wimey stuff happening. And then you don't hear any, you don't see Murazond, because we hear about, like in the story, Murazond is mentioned at some point, but it's like, we do some time stuff towards the end, but it's not like major solving problems. It's just, here's you fiddling around with the bronze. It's fun time kind of hijinks in a way. I feel like that'll be a little bit disjointed for people to kind of go, so this is the point of the expansion. Wait, this isn't the point of the expansion? Maybe?
Yeah, it's
a weird thing to like kind of needle the thread, I guess.
Yeah, you probably don't want to frame the expansion as being primarily focused on time stuff, because that could be a bit confusing for people.
Remember Warlords of Draenor?
Blizzard pretty much got up on stage and said, "Don't think about it too hard," right? Because even they knew. So funny little situation. I'm just keen to see where this goes. It's pretty clear to me that there is some stuff about Nosdormu's charge that maybe is... I would maybe hypothesize that the thing that truly sends him over the edge is him realizing that his death doesn't actually have to happen, and that it only happens as a part of the Titans' true timeline, and then maybe he gets a glimpse at what the Titans would finally build, right? He gets... he basically ends up seeing what he would end up dying for. And he's like, holy shit, this is not what I was signing up for. What the hell?
There is absolutely no part of nothing to do with like World of Warcraft storytelling at any point in time has ever made me imagine the whole point will be Nosdormu is always going to become Murazond. That's it. There's nothing about how any of the writers have written anything at all in the past couple of years that made me think that'll be what happens. It'll always be this isn't how it was supposed to be. This is, you've been fooled here by the Titans, or you've been fooled by the old gods, or something along that lines. We can stop this from happening. Especially when you bring in all the... Really, because we talked about this at length last week, but the kind of misplaced stuff about fate in Shadowlands. It's like, it just doesn't make sense for how any of them would do anything to go, here is destiny. It is a straight and narrow line with some dumps and turns, but you always end up where you're going to end up. They will always go for you can always have for the right outcome. Mm-hmm. It might require sacrifice, it might require, a lot of luck or whatever else, but you're going to have the right outcome. The one that actually feels good at the end. Because that's how these compelling stories tend to go, largely. I don't think they're gonna go for like a Bloober team kind of, this is really dark and really upsetting and really annoying, but it's how we feel about the world.
They won't do
that at all, no.